Welcome to the Calm Cockpit, where pilots of all levels can find high-performance tools, actionable strategies, and access to professionals who can help you fly smarter and stress less.
Today, we're talking about something that affects all professional aviators at some point in their career and can certainly affect your headspace and personal performance. It's traveling over the holidays. Part of the job is delivering people and freight all over the world, and even more so during these special times. But what about the crew who are making it happen?
We'll discuss ways to mentally prepare for being away, how to overcome the loneliness that can take hold on the road, and tips for overcoming the dreaded fear of missing out.
We'll also send out a request to real-world aviators, musicians, military personnel, and other professions for tips and thoughts that they've discovered during actual time away during the holiday. We may not be able to make it all feel better, but especially for those of you who are about to experience your first missed holiday, maybe we can make you understand that you're not alone.
This special holiday episode of the Calm Cockpit podcast starts now.
Onyx 1-2 Mike Oscar, runway 27, clear for takeoff.
Welcome, everyone, to this episode. I'm Geeta Brown, licensed yoga and meditation and music educator with over 30 years of teaching high performers how to improve their lives without adding stress. And I'm also a midlife student pilot.
And I'm John Niehaus, corporate pilot and flight instructor. Now, we'll start this episode off. I apologize. My voice is a little bit different. It's the struggles of the end of the year kindergarten illnesses. So forgive me for that. But I think today's episode is important. It's funny because I actually have a trip for my work that is going to take me away over the Thanksgiving holiday.
Womp, womp, womp.
Yeah. And it's the first time in a little while. And I got to thinking about it and thinking about the first holiday years ago that I spent away from home and realized just kind of what that can do to you. And I thought it'd be fun for us to kind of dedicate an episode to that with the holidays coming up. And there's no way you can truly prepare for it. And yeah, it might stink a little bit. But there really is something to be said about kind of making the best of a bad situation. And so we've got some tips to try to help you with that. Now, I also wanted to add a little bit of fun to this.
Yay, because you're you and you do that.
The thing about it is that so many solutions to trying to make this feel better, it's just personally dependent. It's based off of your situation, your mentality, what you're doing, where you're going, all of those kinds of things. So it's difficult for me or Geeta or anybody else to tell you like, oh, it's going to be okay. Just ignore how much it stinks. So I figured in the world we live in, why not let AI come up with the solutions?
To which Geeta goes, no, my God.
Hey, if the robots are going to be overlords anyways, they might as well tell us to be happy.
We might as well give away our self-care to ChatGPT. Why not?
So the fun part about this is I figured that I would go through and take a look at a combination of what AI tells us to do to be happy. And then I also solicited, again, as we said in the open, some real pilots and real professionals to try to get some tips and thoughts on how they experienced their holidays away. And I'll even share my story of my first Christmas away as well. So welcome to the first holiday episode of the Calm Cockpit.
How cool is this? I have just the tiniest bit that I can relate to it because back in the day when I was a performing musician, I was either traveling for the holidays and performing, but 9 times out of 10, even if I was at home, like say on Christmas, I would be on stage performing and looking out at the audience while I'm playing Jingle Bells for the millionth time since November. And everyone's got their little kids on their laps and everyone is so happy. And I did enjoy playing it and it was really fun, but it is a little bit of a grind when you've played it a million times. And then you're looking out going, they're all together with their families and I'm up here on stage and I'm going to go home and eat noodles in a cold, dark apartment. Isn't this magical? So I can for sure relate. Even like 4th of July and all that, you think music's everywhere. My musician friends who are doing the Christmas services, they will like not be home like the 24th and the 25th. They will just be 24/7, even overnight, especially at the Catholic masses. Like they won't sleep for several days or be home for it. So it's a high workload time for musicians in that way too. So I can relate a little bit, but certainly not to like being so far away in a different time zone and all that. But it just stinks. Honestly, for me, it stunk.
At the airline that I used to work for, it's difficult because when you are sitting there and it's, say, Christmas Eve, and there's passengers that are getting on the airplane, and you're trying to have a positive attitude, and at least from my experience, in the back of my mind, I'm like, why? Why are you traveling today? Like, of all the things, why didn't you prepare ahead? You could have traveled on the 23rd or the 22nd. What is wrong with you that you're traveling today?
Yes.
Now, again, that's a very selfish perspective on my side, but that was my viewpoint of like, on one hand, I've got the little angel going, it's cool and like make people's holidays jolly. And the other side, I'm like, they're doing this just to spite me. So it can get difficult sometimes.
I have friends who are in the Jewish tradition, and they get very out of sync because predominant culture here in New England is sort of the Christian Christmas. And they're sort of out of sync because they're like, I want this time to be sacred and no one else is making this time sacred. So they're, swimming upstream with that issue as well. So yeah, I think the whole thing is like, right, being out of sync with your own inner personal and family traditions can just feel destabilizing.
So as we dig into what ChatGPT says...
To which I will give my honest and real feedback in real time because I haven't heard or looked at any of this. So I'm going to give you the wellness professional's perspective on yay or nay. I mean, ChatGPT is just a large language prediction model, so I'm guessing it did an okay job, I hope.
Some of these aren't so bad. This one, I actually think it does kind of work. So they separated it into segments. And the first segment is kind of like leading up to the flight. How do you mentally prepare yourself or get yourself in a headspace to actually be gone? And I think that this does actually lend some credence to some help. So what it says is acknowledging the reality without resisting it. So for example, okay, I'm going to miss Christmas at home this year. That's hard, but I can make it meaningful in other ways. That acceptance reduces friction. And I think that's not bad advice. If you can just get yourself to accept the idea that you're going to be gone and there's nothing you can do to change it. The only thing you can do is make it better. That's actually not a bad way to go into that time away or that flight.
I actually think that's great advice. And it was actually one of the things when you had the idea for this episode, I just jotted a few things down, knowing full well that you were going to kind of run the ship. But one of the main things I said was to acknowledge whatever it is that you're feeling. Because most of my musician friends, when they would do this, they would just be like, oh yeah, it's just part of the job. It's fine. And then they would just kind of try to move on. But what happens when we try to avoid our emotions is that usually backfires. At some point, there will be some outburst. It's like trying to push a beach ball underwater. You can only hold it down for so long and then it pops back up. And usually when you least expect it, you'll have some kind of mini meltdown and you won't even know where it's come from. Or you'll just get angry or upset at something random. So yeah, acknowledging the suck is kind of a big part of this. And I imagine if you've actually hit play on this episode, it's probably because you're interested in the topic and you're feeling a little bit of that. Because there are a few pilots that I talked to, they're like, it wasn't really a big deal for me. My family and I just made special days other times. Like they were just evidently the outliers because most people think it stinks. But yes, acknowledging ahead of time that it's going to be hard is good. And that was your idea for this whole episode, John, was talk about it ahead of time and think about it so that it doesn't land on you like a ton of bricks when you're actually on that flight, being annoyed at your passengers as they climb on board.
Yeah, so ChatGPT goes on to say that, this is not bad advice either. Take 3 breaths. On each exhale, say out loud, I can handle this. And it moves your nervous system out of fight or flight into a more balanced state. Is that true? Does that actually do that? Or is this just the computers telling us to, be okay?
Well, certainly slow, deep breaths, particularly lengthening the exhale. I don't know about just doing 3 of them, but certainly doing 5 minutes of that will shift your nervous system from sympathetic nervous system activity, which is the more active, alert state and can even lead to fight or flight, into parasympathetic nervous system activity, which is that sort of state when you're resting, but you're still like calm and alert state. However, my experience has been that if someone is upset or annoyed, and if you would go to them, just take 3 deep breaths. They're more likely to roll their eyes at you than actually feel like that's helpful. It's like someone who's like, about to have a panic attack. You're like, just breathe. Like that is not actually usually the time to practice it. A better strategy I have found is to practice breathing practices like as a separate, it's almost like training, physical training, like at a separate isolated time. You work out at the gym so that throughout your day you can feel strong and healthy. So working on your breath in the morning or at night before bed makes it so that your body and mind can get the benefit of that shift into the parasympathetic nervous system, so that when you get triggered out in life by like, oh my God, I just saw a candy cane and now like I'm sad because I'm going to be away from my little daughter who loves candy canes. Then you call on that breath and you actually have it as a skill and a tool. Just telling someone to take 3 deep breaths when they haven't actually trained themselves in how to do that effectively, it can backfire because a lot of people are shallow breathers and they don't really know how to do it. And the horse is already out of the barn. So you have to train breathing, believe it or not, because most people have lost the skill to actually know how to take a slow, deep breath. And trying to learn something when you're in an anxious state is really hard. So train your breathing in the morning, 5 minutes, slow, deep breaths. Lots of apps can do that to help you time it out. That way, when you need to call on it and ChatGPT says, hey, take 3 deep breaths, it's actually useful.
So it has to be your idea. It can't be somebody else telling you what to do.
I think so, don't you? I mean, I've never benefited from someone being like, just calm down. Like that rarely works.
It's interesting when you talked about the idea of pushing the beach ball down. In my experience, again, my first year at the airlines, I missed my first Christmas.
Aw.
That was tough for me.
How old were you?
I was early 20s,
Yeah.
mid 20s maybe.
That's like such a huge developmental stage, We're like doing that final differentiation from family and finding your own identity, and then you were away.
Well, and it was weird for me because we don't have a whole lot of major traditions. The family gets together, the immediate family specifically, and that's kind of it. We get together, we open presents, we eat dinner.
But you're together.
Right. So I had done exactly what you said not to do, which so often happens on this podcast. And I had just told myself, well, it's fine. Like, I'm not really missing much. It's just a family get together. The whole notion that everybody says, well, it's just a day. We can do it another day.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It was that lying to myself, I think, that was the bigger issue at the end of it. Because when it happened, I'm like, no, it's not just a day. I'm missing all of these things and the whole fear of missing out kind of thing when really nothing was going on.
Yeah.
But I think if I had actually acknowledged that I was a little bit disappointed versus just saying, it'll be fine. It's just a day. We'll do it another day. I think that it would have made the actual day itself a little bit easier. So I think that the acceptance and the acknowledgement of it actually does make a lot of sense.
It absolutely does. Avoidance is not a strategy. And very often when I work with folks who use avoidance as a strategy, they say, like you said, it's fine. It's fine. It's just a day. We're going to do it on the 28th or whatever. Everyone around them is like rolling their eyes and shaking their head behind the person who's telling me that, because they see how that person is actually really stressed out about it or not happy about it. They're the ones who are getting the ramifications at home, while the person who's saying it's fine is kind of in denial. They're denying their own experience. I work a lot with individual yoga, so I work over long periods of time with individuals or small groups. So I see all the family dynamics. I might teach the wife and then I teach the husband, and you can see these dynamics going on all the time. So one thing that has helped for people though, like say in your case, who were like, they're feeling that little flutter right now, like, oh, it actually is going to be a little disappointing, but I don't really know how I feel about it yet because I'm 24 and I haven't ever been away, but I'm feeling like it might not be great. One thing that has helped some of my students in the past is, like you said, acknowledge it, but then decided instead of like ruminating about it or wondering if it's going to suck or kind of building it up in their head, we've set aside a specific period of time where they're going to let themselves kind of process it. It actually comes from Susan Munjam, who's the director of the clinical affairs for LoveFly, which is the fear of flying community I work with. They're in partnership with Virgin Atlantic, and she's a really highbrow psychotherapist in Britain. Like, she does amazing work. She called it a worry appointment, and I sort of took that from her and just called it an acknowledging appointment. It's basically, instead of every time you're thinking about that day and wondering if it's going to affect you, say, oh, hang on, I have that appointment on Tuesday afternoon where I'm going to sit down and think about that and let myself process it. Some people have done it like they go for a walk with a friend and they tell their friend, on the walk, I'm going to vent everything that I feel about this for half an hour. All you have to do is listen. But it's like their worry appointment. So they know that walk is coming up. Or I have another student who loves cafes and coffee. God bless her. I can relate. So she'll go get her favorite, latte and just pull out a sheet of paper, and everything that she's just feeling, she'll just let herself write for half an hour about how she feels. I have another person who is very spiritual and they go talk to their pastor. But the idea is that you set aside a specific time and date when you're like, that's when I'm going to process how I'm actually feeling about all of this. So it doesn't occupy your brain or distract you in the 2 weeks leading up to the holiday. Every time you bring it up in your mind, you can just be like, oh yeah, I don't know how I actually feel about that. But you know what? On that date, on the 22nd, I'm going out with Sarah and I'm going to talk about it then. It's like you can put off the worrying. You don't have to get stuck in your head of trying to push the beach ball down or wondering how you're going to feel. You give yourself a dedicated time. It really frees up a lot of mental white space. I like that technique. I use it personally myself at times because I can be a worrier. So I set my little worry appointments, and then usually the appointment comes along. I'm like, who wants to worry? Moving on. But that's kind of a nice technique instead of avoiding it.
And that beach ball does come back up.
It does.
I can tell you from personal experience, it does come back up no matter how hard you try.
Yeah. Good advice, John. What else did ChatGPT say?
Segment 2, it says, staying positive during the trip. It says, okay, you're on the road now. It's a holiday. Maybe you open up your phone, see your family sitting around a dinner table, and you just feel that sting. This is where it tells you to shift the mindset from what I'm missing to what I can create. They call it reframing. Instead of missing the holiday, try I'm experiencing the holiday different this year. The subtle differences frees you from the all or nothing thinking. It goes on to say, basically, think of a different ritual that you can do on the road. And again, I don't think this is terrible. In my case, I'm about to miss Thanksgiving. So as you can tell, we were pre-taping this episode, but I have been thinking about what am I going to do by myself or with the crew while I'm away for Thanksgiving. And we're going to Europe, and Thanksgiving is a time in Europe where they start getting out like the Kris Kringle markets and the holiday markets and things like that. And so my Thanksgiving ritual this year is going to be trying to find, holiday gifts that are European specific from these types of markets. So I've actually given myself something to look forward to on this upcoming holiday that, I'm going to be away, but it's something that I can do specifically on the day while everybody else is doing whatever it is that they're doing. So again, ChatGPT, not bad advice.
I love what you're going to do though, John, because you're not only going to be at the Christmas mart, but you're like getting something that then ties you to them, and you can look forward to then over the holidays giving that to them. And then you have the whole story about where you were and why you picked it for them. It's like it'll bring it full circle then when you can give those gifts away. And I'm now fully expecting a nice gift from the Christmas mart, please and thank you. Gita likes her trinkets from Europe. No, I'm totally kidding. No pressure, but you have to do it now because it's made it to a podcast. I love what ChatGPT said. I will go on the record of saying that, of getting rid of the all or nothing thinking, because I'm the queen of that. Either I'm with the family on Christmas and it's magical, or everything is horrible. Boy, that was like my whole early 20s in a phrase, all or nothing. I think, yes, I would just caution that sometimes we can try to bypass difficult emotions by being like, just be positive, find something to look forward to. I found it more useful to say just allow the suck just to be there. It doesn't actually have to change. It can just be there, that it hurts and it stings. Add in the positive instead of always trying to push away the negative and pretend like it's not there or just move through it fast. The more good stuff you add in, that becomes more attractive for the brain and you naturally let go of the negative stuff. But sometimes with this pop psychology, there can be that bypassing of emotion, and just be positive, just be happy. But if you're hurting inside, there's no timeline on that. And it's okay to feel hurt and completely happy and satisfied at the same time. That's where, the large language model of ChatGPT lacks that sophistication.
Well, so speaking of that, in terms of the magic just be happy, here's what ChatGPT says will make you feel better. Light exercise.
Hey!
A 10-minute stretch session should make you forget that you're away for the holidays.
Should make you forget, yeah. Just stretch your pecs and you'll instantly be happy.
Sending a voice message to someone that you love. Not even talking to them. Send a voice message. They sent you to voicemail because they're busy at the holidays and they don't want to talk to you.
They're too busy for you. They're having fun without you.
Ordering or making food that reminds you of home. In my case, actually, when I order food away, I'm specifically ordering things opposite from home.
Of course.
Because for me, that's fun.
Yeah.
Now, I laugh at this, but I've done it before, and it's gone on record. Gratitude journal. Put a positive thing. It'll make you feel better. For the hits that they've had in terms of decent ideas, this notion that this can be a ritual that'll make you forget how bad you feel. I don't think 10 minutes of stretching is going to make a difference.
I totally agree with that. I will say a 10-minute guided yoga practice with an experienced practitioner can help shift your body into a more neutral state, which then the mind subjectively can experience as feeling a little relief. But does it make the pain go away? No. It just makes it easier for you to hold that, right? Because isn't that life, like holding the beauty and the suffering at the same time and not letting it crush you? It's like expanding your capacity to feel all of that and not get sucked down into them. 10 minutes of yoga can make a shift, or Tai Chi, or being outside for sure, but it doesn't make the pain go away.
True.
It just helps us bear it.
Moving on. Segment 3. Dealing with the feelings of missing out. Goes on to say, let's talk about the real emotional part, the fear of missing out. Because it's normal, which it is. It says, trying to pretend that you don't feel that way tends to make it worse, which we've already talked about, and that's also true. Here's a good mindset. Shift, acknowledge the emotion, and don't attach a story to it.
What do you think?
I have no idea.
See, that's why, again, this like pop psychology, people say that and then people don't know what it means. And that's why they give people like me a bad name, like yoga and wellness people, because they're like, oh, it's just a story that you're telling yourself, and people don't understand that. That takes a lot of unraveling. I'll try to give the thumbnail sketch.
So this is a real thing.
The stories that you tell yourself about events, it's a very real thing. It's a cognitive psychology thing. I can do it like in like a story. Say there's a little boy and he's, let's see, how old would he be? He's like 3 and he's just starting to grasp that objects can add up. Like if you have 2 apples and then 2 more apples, you might have 4 apples, right? His little brain is just getting that. And let's say he's doing that, but he keeps kind of getting it wrong. He has some little toy at home he's playing with, and someone in his family comes by, let's say it's mom. Sorry, mom, you're getting thrown under the bus in this scenario, but mom comes by and it's like, oh no, Timmy, it's 4, not 5. Ha 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 ha, you got it wrong. It kind of like makes a little joke about him and math. Doesn't mean any harm, but she just makes a joke about him and math and corrects it for him. But then let's say he gets to kindergarten and he's doing similar math and he gets things wrong and the teacher kind of corrects him, but maybe in a harsh way. Maybe the teacher is having a bad day and corrects him kind of harshly on the math, sort of insinuating you're not really good at math. Timmy's not really good at math. You should go to that art class over there. That's not for you. And then he goes on, 1st grade, 2nd grade, maybe he's a horrible teacher for 3rd grade, who every time he does a math problem, instead of helping him, she gets frustrated and rolls her eyes at him and always is exasperated when he needs help with math. Every time this happens, Timmy is internalizing a story or a neural pathway that you are not good at math. Right? They keep sending him to art and keep shooing him away from math. If he's trying to make change, from a dollar bill with his mom, she goes, oh, you're so bad with money. You're so bad with math. Let me help you. It just keeps getting reinforced by every adult in his life that he's no good at math. We have this a lot in music. Kids get told they can't sing in chorus and they get told to mouth the words instead of singing. Yeah, this happens all the time. And then they're traumatized and they can't sing. And we have to spend a year undoing that. So Timmy goes all through school. He gets to junior high. Maybe he's doing algebra and it's really a struggle because now he has this story in his mind started from even when he was like barely verbal, like you're not good at math. You're not good at math. It gets internalized every time there's a little, even if it's a joke, it just gets internalized. It's now a neural pathway, a story, quote unquote, in his mind about his capacity to do math. He gets to a difficult math subject and he's carrying that story with him. So he's trying to do the algebra and he's even more choked up because he believes I'm not naturally good at this. I can't do it. So he gets blocked. And then he feels ashamed. So he has a hard time asking for help. So his algebra score goes down, right? He's getting a D in algebra, which reinforces the story, I'm no good at math, and on and on and on it goes. When really, it's just a story in his mind. It's just a thought pattern that's got reinforced over and over and over again.
So how does that affect the pilot who's missing a holiday?
So if a pilot is missing a holiday and say they do meditation and they notice that every day their mind keeps going to these same thoughts over and over again of, I have to be the perfect mom. I have to be the perfect mom. If I'm not present, it means I'm not a good mom, right? If I'm not physically there, it means I'm not a good mom. You can usually trace those thoughts, beliefs, and ideas to how you saw your own parents doing things in society that told you you have to do X, Y, and Z behavior in order to be a good person or to be successful. When in reality, that's just a story, a role that was either internalized by these repetitions since a child that are just happening unconsciously without you actually even choosing them. So most of our responses to things like being away or having a trouble, Hanukkah away, Christmas away, New Year's away, we can look at like what we think it means about us as a person if we're missing things, or if we're not doing our duty, or we're not present for that person. Women especially, we have that caregiving role. If I'm not there to nurture and care for, it means that I'm not doing my job. Again, a lot of this comes from sitting and observing your own mind and deciding these ideas I have about the way things, quote, should be are very often just subconscious programming that have happened like it did from Timmy from the time he was a kid. It's just stuff that your brain has repeated over and over again, and you think it's true without actually pulling it apart and investigating, is that true for me now? Is that really relevant for me now? Or am I just operating programming that I picked up from my family of origin or society that actually doesn't serve me or my family? It's keeping me stuck in patterns that I have to do certain things in order to be the right way. It's very hard to explain. I hope that makes sense at all. It's not easy work to unravel that. That's why when they say, tell yourself a different story, I'm like, yeah, wouldn't that be nice? People don't even know what that means because they don't even know they're running a story about their life.
It does say in here a specific line of acknowledging that this too will pass. Now, there is some mindfulness meditations that I've done where that is the focus of the entire thing of like, think about this too shall pass. Think about that, this too shall pass. That, again, how it sounds hokey, but it has helped. So some of those kind of emergency type meditations can help bring you out of that moment, out of that feeling.
That is exactly the shortcut to seeing that the story is just a story. What you described just there is you're noticing I'm having this thought, which is like a pattern, a neural pattern that's been in there since I was a kid of I have to be there with the family or whatever it is. And then just noticing that that thought arises and then it subsides. That is impermanence, that thought is not a fixed reality about you and your life. That's exactly the shortcut. Sometimes just saying this too shall pass. This too shall pass unhooks you from that narrative being true about who you are and your capacity to enjoy being away.
Did you say shortcut? I believe you said shortcut.
No. I did.
Merry Christmas to me.
It only took to the end of season 1 till Gita said you could do a shortcut.
Now, I'm actually beginning to look forward to the failures on this.
Okay.
The last line in the segment that it talks about here, it says, have somebody set aside a plate at home and send you a picture of it. Little things like that might make you feel included.
Oh my God.
I'm pretty sure if your cousin hates you, that's exactly what they would do. Wish you were here. Here's the empty plate. I'm going to put a cookie on it and eat it in front of you. No, don't do that.
That's horrible. Don't people do that if if they're grieving, they set a place so that person's presence can be there? But yeah, No, don't do that.
I'm going to bombard you with pictures of all the fun things we're doing that you don't get to do. Enjoy.
Yeah, pass on that one. Pass.
But it does say bring some sensory comfort with you. And I guess I could sort of see this. It talks about smells from home, maybe a beverage like a coffee or a tea that you would normally drink on Christmas Eve or whatever holiday you celebrate. Maybe even a playlist. I can see some of that stuff. Maybe brings you into the moment. In my case,
maybe, yeah.
There are certain songs or whatever that might make me feel like it's the holiday. So if I'm trying to get myself into a certain festive mood, that might work. I can see it.
I don't know. For me, I'm so emotional that doing that stuff would just trigger me and make me feel worse. But this is where knowing yourself, which you said at the top of the episode, crucial. Because if you know yourself, you know if that's going to make you feel comforted or just make you miss it even more. I like to do the opposite positive thing. Just do something totally different that's fun and new. But that's me.
Yeah. And that makes sense too. The next segment, and I could go either way on this one too. It says using the time to your advantage. And it talks about how if you're in a hotel lobby, it could be beautifully decorated, but you've got nothing to do. If you're not working, you're just away. Maybe you have time in the hotel room to stare at the walls and do nothing and feel calm. I don't know. It just, it talks about the hustle and bustle of the holiday and that, well, you're not part of anything, so you can just enjoy time by yourself. I don't know.
Yeah, that seems fraught with peril unless, you have a strategy ahead of time. It seems like a recipe for just kind of sinking down into bleh.
It does kind of remind me, it's funny, when we had COVID years ago, normally our Christmases for our family, it's multiple different sides and we go from one place to another. In some cases on Christmas Day, we would do like 4 Christmases all on the same day.
Oh yeah, been there. Yep.
And while that's fun, it's also exhausting.
Totally. Yeah.
And so when COVID came up and we're like, well, nobody's getting together. It's just going to be us. We'll just stay in the house. We'll have a nice, quiet Christmas. And that was fun for about half the day. And we're like, well, now we've got nothing to do.
Now what?
We've already done all of the things. It's noon and now we're bored. So in theory, the idea of having nothing to do and using that calm to put yourself in a, relaxed state, I guess I could understand it, but I think this is a swing and a miss. I don't see how sitting in a hotel lobby looking at a professionally decorated Christmas tree is going to do you any good.
Yeah, the corporate Christmas tree, pass. We'll give ChatGPT a big raspberry on that one.
If you look for meaning, you usually find it.
Oh my gosh. Fortune cookie BS. I almost said a bad word there.
So that's really the extent of what ChatGPT said in terms of things that will help you while you're traveling for the holidays. You can never truly prepare yourself, especially for the first one. It does get easier. You do get kind of numb to it after a while if you have multiple holidays away. But acceptance, like we've talked about, of just the notion that, it's not fun. And in some cases, like for me, it was less about my experience and it was more about worrying that I was going to, in some cases, ruin somebody else's experience. Like if somebody wanted me there and I'm not there, I'm making it worse for them.
Yeah.
And, there's always going to be a little bit of that. You can't control other people's emotions, but you can try to prepare. You can do all of these things that we've suggested about like, okay, it's not the same as having the holiday on the 28th versus the 25th, but it is better than nothing. At least if you have something concrete in place, you can push yourself to look forward to what that will look like.
Yeah. I really like what you said too about in your case, it wasn't so much that you were going to miss something, but it was like you not being there for other people would then cause that just not goodness. And that's the case where I was saying about, like the stories that you run in your head about like what that means and what that means to other people and what your role as John is in the world. And I know for myself, when I take a look at when I have feelings like that, I like, what is the core thing motivating me underneath that of like wanting to be there for other people? And for me, if it was like, oh, I actually like to be connected to people and have an aunt. And once I had this conversation with her, because similar thing, I wasn't able to be there for her in the way I wanted to. And that was causing me worry. So instead of feeling that fear of missing out of being there, I just called her and I said, I'm really sad that I can't be there on that day. I value our relationship. You're way more than an aunt. You're like a best friend, I choose you as family. And can you please tell me what's really useful for you when I am there in a few weeks that's going to help you? Because she was going through a rough time. I was able to like actually say the thing that was like really driving the feeling of me feeling guilty for not being there and then correct it instead of just sort of sitting with it. I don't know if that makes sense. That's where like getting at what the story was. For me, it was I'm not a responsible family member if I'm not there. But what I actually want to do is support her. So I told her that and asked her what support she needed. And then we had that nice connection. So I think it's always worth it to look a little deeper at what's going on because there is some gold there. But other times, like you said, just this too shall pass. You just make it through and trust that the lessons you'll learn will come through it. Before we go to all of your wonderful pilots who gave their stuff, I do want to acknowledge big traumas and little traumas are a thing with the holidays. Again, I work a lot in therapeutic yoga, a lot with people in small group and one-on-one settings over long periods of time. So we really see this quite frequently in that therapeutic yoga place. For a lot of people, the holidays are not actually a happy time. You'd be amazed at how many people, even who put on the happy face and do all the decorating, are actually really suffering. Families of origin, there can be physical violence that escalated during the holidays, substance abuse that would escalate. That was the time that dad would always get too inebriated and not good things would happen. Overly perfectionistic family systems, very rigid. You have to do things a certain way. Otherwise, there is a lot of ostracization. And the other element, though, to the holidays can be a sense of neglect, because the research shows, and I've seen it with my own students, that people who were neglected and just not even given attention often have much worse outcomes in adulthood than people who were actually abused verbally or physically. I mean, how awful is that? So neglect is actually one of the most harmful things. And people would often experience this over the holidays, families prioritizing the show of the holiday over actually the kid who is in the corner wanting to be seen. So if you're someone who has experienced that in your family of origin, of the holidays bringing up all of that, and that's why you're choosing to work on the holiday, because you're like, I don't care anyway. I hate the frickin' holidays. I just want to get through it and get to January. If I could tell you how many professionals I've had in my studio say that to me, I just can't wait till it's over because I hate all of it. I would say find a place or a time or a person that you can talk to just let yourself feel that, because trying to ignore it and just quote unquote work through it and avoid it, as we've said, that's not a winning strategy. Find someone you trust where you can just vent, release it, acknowledge it, and actually feel that emotion. If you feel it, it will move through you and you will move on. If you don't let yourself feel it, it will stick and it will become part of your story and it will boss you around from the inside out. So I just want to acknowledge some of you might be working because you're happy to avoid the holidays, but give yourself that permission to find some time with a safe person in a safe place to just be there with the real trauma that happens for people during that time of year. Because it's not always a positive thing why people are choosing to work. Most of my students work on the holiday because they want to just get it over with. So I want to acknowledge that as well.
From a pilot perspective, it's not often that there's a lot of meaning in what we do. I mean, when you're taking passengers to and fro, it's just another day. It's not like we're doing any kind of charitable work. Over the holidays, I think it does allow you to have the perspective of maybe sharing just a little bit of extra joy. So back to my original, taking this whole thing full circle, back to the original, I have passengers on the 23rd or the 24th.
Yeah.
That are going to their families. Like, you are now providing a pivotal service for that person to have joy over the holidays. And so that was one of the other things that helped me is like, yeah, okay, I'm not maybe super happy in this moment, but I have a airplane full of people who are about to have a joyful holiday because I got them there safely. So there's a little bit of meaning that you can put to that as well.
Absolutely. Service, 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 right? Anytime we help other people, we're actually helping ourselves. I love that. Yes.
So our final segment, I sent out a list of questions to my friends and sort of our social media public, and just kind of what do you do over the holidays if you're working, or a small sort of story about what your experience was for working the holiday. And we got a few responses. I thought I'd go through some of these.
Cool. Can't wait to hear these.
These people will know who they are, but I will just use first names for this. So Robert says he keeps things festive by wearing holiday ties and switching them up every few days. Simple, cheerful, but keeps a reminder of the spirit of whatever holiday it actually is.
Cool.
I think that's great. I think that, again, when you are in a crew member atmosphere, it just takes a small little pebble in the water to bring everybody down. And so while you may not be feeling great about it, the person next to you probably doesn't feel great about it either. Yeah. So it is so easy to spend an entire day complaining and being upset and, how dare they ask us to come in? It's so much easier to complain than it is to stay positive. And this is where that whole notion of like, just be positive. It's true, because every little bit helps. And that person's on the edge as much as you are. And you can hold each other together on the cliff instead of falling off of it.
I love that.
So Paul submitted a story for us. He said that he was working his first cargo job, and he flies a 747 internationally, so long haul cargo. And he talks about one time where he woke up away from home on Christmas Day, staring out the hotel window as the sun would rise. And he said that was the moment where it just really hit him. But it was also a moment where he realized that there were a dozen other pilots that were out there feeling the same thing. So he wasn't by himself. He wasn't alone. And everybody kind of had that emotional hit of like, ugh, it's Christmas and we're wherever he was. So he said that they created what they called the Breakfast Club, and they gathered up items for Christmas dinner, games and sports, and just used that as a mental getaway. So kind of a strength of community, teamwork effort, and we're just going to make something out of nothing, MacGyver it. He said that that really did help. And from his perspective, from a cargo standpoint where you bid for your schedules, generally speaking, seniority does allow for some of those things to be changed in the future. So for him, it was more of the idea of like, I have to do it this year, but next year I'll have enough seniority where I won't have to. So that also helped him get through it.
Yes, that actually helped me as a musician because for years, similar, you take all the gigs when you're new. So I was doing every single holiday and I was sick of it. But I said, you know what? At some point, I'm going to be able to choose and make enough money to not have to do all of these. And it's really true. I didn't do Christmas then for years until a few years ago, a friend asked me, my church is doing a service. I'd really love to have you play. But it was a totally different experience because now I'm senior. I got to choose the music. I got to choose what I was playing. I got to choose all this stuff. Whereas when I was younger, I just had to do it because I needed the money. It really does. If you kind of just make it through, it does come back to you later on. That Christmas service that I played a few years ago was now one of my favorites, but I had to go through that early, pay your dues early in the career to get to that point.
So Jordan flies medevac, and she says that she's flown Thanksgiving and Christmas a few times, and she tries to bring things like mini pies for the crew or put together goodie bags for the crew, because brightening up, again, that crew atmosphere, who everybody's feeling it. If you can get that joy from helping those other people in your crew feel better, she said that that brings her a lot of joy. And in her case with medevac, sometimes they have younger patients, unfortunately, and so she will bring things for younger patients to brighten up their holiday on days that, well, if they're in a medevac over Christmas, they're having a much worse day than you.
Right. Oh, that's a great idea. I love it.
Lori, who actually was one of my college professors, she and her husband are both pilots. And so as you can imagine, I'm sure that that's even more difficult, because now if one of you gets it off and the other one doesn't, that can actually be almost worse. So their key strategy, kind of what we've already mentioned, is making sure that they have a day that they guarantee that they're both off, and that it's deliberate and that it's planned, and every amount of attention that they feel that they need is put towards this specific day so that they can celebrate those things together. And that makes it a little bit different. It's not just randomly like, oh, we'll just do it on Thursday. It's no, we are going to pick a date and we're going to do all the things in the way that we deliberately want them to be. And then that makes them feel better. So I can see that as well.
That's nice. It's all about connection, right? And a lot of these I hear it's connecting with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that helps. It's a good time. That's a shortcut, connection.
Yeah. And again, you know, the common theme here is the crew. And so when I can't even imagine being in a single pilot operation by yourself. That would be even more difficult.
Yeah.
What we're talking about here in a lot of cases is, you know, cargo, transport, charter. It's usually at least 2, if not 3 crew members involved. Yeah. So you do have a little bit of a, we're in this together kind of mentality.
Yeah.
And Tyler brings that up as well. He says that the crew that you're with can make or break the entire holiday. During the long tour he was on from December 20th to January 3rd, he was lucky to be with a team that was willing to sort of go the extra mile to keep everybody together. They flew quite a bit, so that helped break their mind off of things, but just making the most of it and sort of creating small mini events during that period of time to make that moment special. And so again, it's that common theme you're seeing from pilots that are out there actually doing it, who have experienced it. And last but not least, Nick. Nick says he's missed a lot of holidays. He and his family learned to shift celebrations around. We've common theme again. Thanksgiving dinner on a random Tuesday, or Christmas gifts under a tree because Santa visited early for pilot families.
Love it.
Creating that narrative, that story has really helped him. And again, those dates being somewhat deliberate. He shared how family sometimes came to him if he was away and it was close enough for them to come visit. His wife would come out for a long sit. So if he was sitting out in, let's say, Jackson Hole for 4 days over Christmas, his wife would fly out, and that would make that moment special in a different way. So, you know, yeah, Christmas away from home could be kind of exciting with your family there. So I can see and appreciate all of these things. Thank you for all of you that submitted your stories to us.
Those are fantastic tips. I love the antidote is just connection with other people, bringing pecan pies for the crew or just going out with the crew. Isn't that amazing when we just reach out to people who are in the suck with us? It just makes it so much more bearable. And that's really bringing it back on home to the Calm Cockpit podcast is the whole point of this episode. I said, John, what do you want to do with this episode? He was like, I want people to know that they're not alone and that it's hard. And that if you think about it ahead of time, it doesn't necessarily have to hit you in a way that's going to drag you down. It can still be hard, but it doesn't have to kind of send you into a really negative place. So I'm really glad you had the idea for this episode. It's really interesting. We might have a little tradition here.
Well, and ChatGPT actually came up with one last antidote.
Oh my gosh, you can't let it go.
So the last thought it says, and I actually kind of like this, it says, being away during the holidays is tough, but it doesn't make you less connected to your family, less dedicated, or less human. Not that ChatGPT would know. It's part of the career, and you can navigate it with strength and compassion for yourself. I think that is a really nice line. I think that, again, just knowing that, there's no magic bullet to make it not a holiday. Yes, you have to do it anyways, but there are ways of making it suck a little bit less. So hopefully this helps.
I love it. I think there's some really great tips in there. And at the very least, people know that they're not alone. You're not alone, because that's really, I remember the times when I would perform for all the families, and the worst was when I didn't have someone to hang out with after. That was the worst. So pilots, you are not alone. I could definitely see this being a kind of an annual episode. Maybe we'll refined even by the end of 2026 and have even more ideas and make it more robust. I really appreciate you bringing this issue to the consciousness, bringing it out of the dark and being like, talk about it. I can imagine if we send a call out next year to our listeners, we'll have even more responses from people. Folks, if you have enjoyed this episode, make sure you hit subscribe in your podcast player. Throw us some stars. We love 5-star reviews. You don't even have to write some words. Just hit those 5 stars. It really helps it so that other people can find this show. Share it with your pilot friends. Maybe even send this specific episode around to your fellow pilot friends who you know are going to be flying this holiday, and spread that love to them. And you can also feel free to email us if you have an idea that we can collect for even 2026 episode on this. Just drop us an email. calmcockpit@gmail.com. You might be going through this right now. It might be fresh in your mind. Drop us an email. Let us know how you're doing with it. And we could also share that on social media as this episode rolls through December. And I hope you have wonderful holidays, whatever you celebrate. Merry, merry, happy, happy, all of that. And until next time, fly smarter
and stress less.
Boss Air 1 departure is Airbus 321. Traffic holding crossing runway 33 left 3 clear.